How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to be talking about politics. I'm going to be discussing politics, and I'm going to be discussing what I believe about the current political situation. Here's what I believe about politics. I am a Republican, and you could probably tell by the way that I carry myself that I am indeed a Republican. As I'm sure most of you are. You're most likely a Republican, and you most likely have Republican interests. Well, we're in a difficult crisis, the Republicans. We're in a difficult crisis battling the Democrats. I like to call them the Democrats. The Democrats are the Republicans' greatest enemy, and there's a reason for this. Republicans fight for greater freedoms. The Democrats fight for greater security. And we fight for greater security, obviously. However, not like the Democrats. The Democrats are very strict on security, I'd say. A little too strict in my opinion. I believe the Republicans fight for a greater freedom than the Democrats. And I think the Democrats are actually, in my opinion, losing their minds. I mean, look at them. They're losing their minds. That's what I believe. I believe that the Democrats are losing their minds. You see, things have been different ever since 9/11. Things have been much different. And ever since 9/11, people have been trying to get strict, and they've been trying to get more safe, and, well, they've been going a bit too far, in my opinion. We had one terrorist attack, and it was awful, and it was terrible. And I think it truly showed a weak point in the United States. However, I do not think that means we need to go absolutely Fort Knox with this whole idea of security. You know, something that I noticed in Republican states, and I'm a homeless person, by the way. I just thought I'd mention that, but something I noticed in Republican states is that not only are they better to the homeless, but they also don't have locks on their public bathrooms. Well, most restaurants don't have locks on their public bathrooms. And I gotta say, that's a pretty nice convenience. Not having a lock on a public bathroom is a pretty nice convenience. And I have to say, most Republican states, they don't have locks in public bathrooms. But here's why I believe the Democrats are going crazy. Well, who exactly are they appealing to? Well, they're appealing to race and sexual identity. The Democrats are appealing to race and sexual identity. Along with appealing to race and sexual identity, I mean, they're actively attempting to take away the Constitution. If you remember Harris, she quite literally tried to ban weapons from the United States, as in assault weapons, something that must be granted to all citizens as a right to live. And Harris tried to ban assault weapons. Harris had tried to ban assault weapons, and she attempted to take away America's right to freedom. That's a very monstrous thing to do, and even if she did it out of ignorance of her own failure of logic, it does not make it a right thing to do. It does not make it correct. To ban guns from the United States of America is the equivalent of banning alcohol. I mean, that's the next prohibition. It's just not going to work. You cannot ban guns from the United States. This is something the Democrats actively tried to do. The Democrats are actively trying to take absolute control because they fear Republican takeover, as in an absolute outcast of the Democrats. But why would you be outcasted unless you were a bad party? Have you ever thought about that? That is what they fear. They fear an outcast and an absolute Republican takeover. But you would not fear an outcast unless you were a good party. For how dare you try and take away the guns from the people? How dare you try and remove our constitutional right to carry an assault weapon and to carry a handgun? What kind of idiot would ever do that? It's almost like you were intentionally trying to sabotage yourself. Along with this, all of the ideas you focus on are not only pointless, but they're useless. They lead nowhere, and they mean nothing. Meanwhile, the Republicans focus on global issues. The Democrats remain to focus on civil rights and liberties that were fought decades ago. You know, it reminds me of an internet explorer trying to catch up to modern day. If Biden was not an example of that, then I'm not sure what was an example. Perhaps Harris trying to ban guns, maybe, could be another good example. So as of right now, the Republicans are winning, but the Democrats have a trick up their sleeve. The Demon-crats have tricks up their sleeve, and they might try to overthrow the Republican using false methods. They might perhaps try to cheat democracy. And this is what we fear, because we, the educated, understand those, the poor in thought. And we understand that you have not fully thought out your ideas, for you have forgotten the world around you. You have forgotten the world beyond the United States. You only think about yourself, which is an egotistical idea of life. The Democrats are too egotistical to exist. That is what I believe. That the Democrats are way too egotistical to exist any longer. That is why they keep trying to say that it is us, the Republicans, that are egotistical. It is called self-projection.